Whenever I'm cooking in somebody else's kitchen, I'm a whisk taker. Today, we're talking about the whisk. One day in the distant past, someone grabbed a bunch of little twigs, held them together, bundled at one end, and used them to stir their food. The whisk was born. Whisk, it most likely comes from the Scandinavian word visk, that means rapid sweeping movement or quick stroke. The word first referred to a tool or utensil in the 1660s. When someone says whisk, most of us think of a kitchen tool with a long cylindrical handle holding wire loops. A whisk can be categorized in two ways, by the number of wires and the shape. Round whisks with many wires are best for whipping air into liquids. That's your meringues. I love using mine for eggs. You have your flat whisks with fewer wires, whip in less air, and are better for mixing products that require a smooth, dense finish. They're a whisk for whipping cream, eggs, sauces, even avocados. There's even a matcha whisk. If you've ever seen a matcha whisk, it's handmade from a single piece of bamboo. And it has between 80 and 120 prongs. It's used exclusively for whisking Japanese powdered matcha into a froth. But before we had all of those great gadgets that we have today, they had to do it the old school way. In the 1600s, slaves and European cooks improvised with wood brushes. One early receipt calls for a beating with a big birch rod or yellow twigs as whisks. The twigs were tied together in bundles, left to soak in a stream until their bark could be stripped away, and then hung up to dry and cure. They were bound at the handle end to create a subtle whisk for sauces and creams. So if you think back in America in the 17th century in settlements, you wouldn't own many tools made of metal. So a whisk would have been unthinkable. Anything that would have been made from metal, like a knife, would have come from England at the time. So old receipts used by slaves had them mixing stuff together with your hands. You've heard me use the word receipt. Y'all who are just like, why does she keep saying receipt? Well, guess what? The word receipt was used before the word recipe. So they weren't recipes, they were receipts. In the US, Julia Child deserves credit for teaching American homemakers how to buy the right whisk and actually yield it with a snap of the wrist. She'd brandish a bulb-shaped whisk and then performed magic, inflating egg whites into snowy peaks of foam on camera. She told the audience that you need a soft balloon whisk if you were trying to get air into a meringue, and a stiff whisk for mixing. Before Julia, we used what's called an egg beater. Well, I didn't use it, that was my mother's time. But before her, people used an egg beater. The one that you wind up, that as you started winding, it started banging around the pole. Or I've actually seen them take two forks and tape them back to back and use that as a whisk back in the day. How does a whisk really work? When you pull the thin wires of a whisk through liquid, such as egg whites or cream, each wire creates a small vacuum behind it as it's pulled through. So the air rushes in to fill this vacuum and is thus incorporated into whatever we are whisking. The more wires a whisk has, the more air can be whipped into the liquid more quickly. And round-shaped tops are better for this purpose. Did you think that the whisk had that sort of past? With all the gadgets that are in there, that story is one awesome one. Can you imagine the other stories of the other utensils in your kitchen. I'm Elizabeth Grove, and this is EdibleFX. If you have anything to add, put it down below. Please subscribe because I'm gonna miss you if you don't.